Okay then, continuing our discussion of the pressure carburetor. What sort of questions do you have here?
Can we go over the AMC thing again with the A and B?
You mean go over everything one more time?
Literally just start at the beginning.
Literally.
No, just
Like all the way. Oh, like all
yeah.
the way.
First of all,
No,
no, I'm just all the way.
Yeah.
So you better be doing. The point of the airplane.
It's chapter rewind.
Doesn't go away. Nope.
Oh my God.
You asked me to start all
I
over.
didn't want to go all the way back.
You said all the way back. All right.
The ADI system in your video, you really glossed over that.
Yep, because it wasn't an ADI video.
Okay.
Okay, so starting the beginning.
We're really doing this?
We'll do it quickly.
Speed run.
This is a downdraft carburetor. Venturi's up here. Throttle valve's down here. Then the discharge nozzle. Then
Compressor.
supercharger. So, impact air. Impact air comes. Guess we're going to use this color for impact air. I think we used darker blue last time. Use this one? All right, so impact air is going to come in through here, down in here, fill up chamber A, and move the diaphragm to the right. So moving it that way. And then we have,
Dark blue for vacuum.
really? Okay.
Suck.
Really dark blue? Hey. Venturi suction coming in. B is going to move the diaphragm to the right. So A plus B equals the air metering force. All right, so as the throttle is opened, what happens to air metering force? It increases, and air metering force tends to move the poppet to the right. Okay, so then we have, was it this color here? Oops, no, I want that in a highlighter. Highlighter. We have, there, this one. All right, oh, I'm working backwards, sorry. There we go. There we go. Fuel inlet at a much higher pressure, say 20, 25 psi, comes in here, enters chamber E, which tends to move the poppet neither right nor left. It has no bearing on the poppet.
Oh, because it goes all the way around.
Because this goes through here, through here, up there, and here. So you have the same on both sides. So right now it has an equalizing effect, does not move the poppet right or left. However, fuel comes in, we get bubbles. Bubbles should be a different color. We get bubbles. Bubbles. And we don't want bubbles to go through the carburetor, so the bubbles float to the top. Right here is a float. That is a float, and so when the air fills up the top, that float will then sink. It stays on the float. So when the fuel level is high, the float's going to go up. When the fuel level comes down, the float's going to drop. So it's going to drop, allowing the vapors to go back to
The fuel tank.
fuel tank. Yes.
So you said this carburetor is good for inverted system stuff?
I said, but there's one little item that we'll talk about. So this would be the only one that would. So what happens if this float were to get a hole in it and sink?
It would be open constantly and there would be not big deal.
It would be open constantly, and who would care? The only time you would care is if you had full tanks of fuel, and for some reason you were drawing off the left tank to feed the carburetor, and the return was to the right tank.
Wouldn't you just switch tanks?
But if you didn't know that, because one time I had the 310 completely gassed up, and some students were taxing it around, and they came around the corner and they were spraying fuel out all over the place. It's like, switch tanks, because they were sucking all the fuel from one and blasting it to another.
So they hardline it to one of the tanks, it doesn't change with your fuel selector?
there's different ways they could do it. I don't know. Maybe some do, some don't. So if it's sunk, what would be the indication?
Depends on how much.
Probably nothing. You probably never know. I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Unless you have fuel piston out of one of the
Yeah.
pretty specific.
Right. So what if it got stuck in the up position for some unknown reason?
Then more air would run
Then occasionally you'd get a burp of air through here, which might make a little stumble, maybe, depending on how much air. Okay. So yeah, fuel comes in there. Do you want to kill that air conditioner? Because it seems a little ridiculous to have that on right now. For the record, there's a class in here before us, so you should not be touching that thing. Did you turn it off?
It's always Gabe, man. He's the one, he walks in,
Okay.
he just changes it.
Good job. Went off. Okay. So then we have a pressure reduction once it goes past the poppet. Fuel is in D. And that tends to push it to the left. To the left. Left, left, left. All right, then. That fuel in D is called what? Unmetered. All right, unmetered fuel pressure comes around here till it gets to the main metering jet. Then from that point on, it is metered. So now it is metered. And at about what pressure did we say?
5 PSI.
All right, that's what I'm just calling it, right? Doesn't have to be, but 5 psi. There we go. Got that coming up in here. And that fills chamber C, which tends to move the poppet to the right. Okay. So fuel metering force equals
D minus C.
D minus C. D is bigger. All right. Follow so far? All right. That's what you wanted me to go over there. All right. So now we have a couple of other items here we can talk about. We wanted to talk about the automatic mixture, right? So automatic mixture. As we go up in altitude, the automatic mixture control, potato chip theory, will expand, causing a restriction right here, which only matters if there is flow. You got to have flow. Then if there's flow comes down through here, around the bleed, back up in here, and out, and that flow, once you have a restriction, that will reduce the pressure past the AMC. So as we go up in altitude, then what's going to happen to A? It will decrease a little bit, and because there's a flow anyway, that would tend to decrease B a little bit too. So if A and B decrease, then the
Poppet will move to the left, decreasing the fuel flow into D.
okay, poppet moves to the left, closes off the poppet right here, which causes the pressure in D to go down. If the pressure in D goes down, then you're going to have less flow and less pressure over here. If you have less flow and less pressure here, then what happens?
discharge all settles down.
The pressure started to go down, so what happens?
Closes a little bit until it
Discharge nozzle closes, meaning what for the discharge?
pressure rises.
Less fuel is coming out to equalize the pressure back to 5.
Yes.
And it is in equilibrium. If we add a little bit of throttle, then that increases
The air,
air metering force, A and B, the poppet opens,
increasing your fuel metering force.
increasing the air metering force, moving the poppet to the right, which means that we're going to get more fuel into D. More fuel into D causes the pressure rise over here. If this pressure tries to rise, then this will open up, let more fuel in, which is good because I just opened the throttle. All right.
So that means C will not change.
That's correct. Okay. However, doesn't work in idle. Why doesn't it not work in idle?
Because you said so.
Because there's a vacuum.
Vacuum.
What?
There's no vacuum across the interior.
There'd be no airflow? No suction.
Yeah.
There's not enough air metering force at idle. There's not enough vacuum. There's not enough impact to move the air metering force to move the poppet over. So, what do? There's a little idle spring right there. So you have an idle spring.
Forces
See that?
it to be open a certain amount, no matter what.
So it forces the poppet to be open a certain amount. Well, that makes it kind of an idiot, doesn't it? And it can't regulate fuel. So idle isn't a speed, it is a range of speeds on all carburetors and fuel injections. Idle is roughly where you set it at the bottom, which is, I don't know, 550 up to, say, about 1,000 or so. About 1,000 things start transitioning around. So how well would that work if I said, well, from 550 to 1,000, you get the exact same amount of fuel?
That work horrible.
So then you would run super rich at low idle when the throttle plate's closed till you got really lean, and then suddenly the secondary system would kick on. So you just got to live with it. Would that make sense?
No.
Okay, so you can't. So you have to have something to regulate that in that range. And so what you have down here is this idle mixture valve mechanically linked to the throttle, which is to say that when the throttle is pulled back, this space right there,
Is adjusted.
this space right here is adjusted. So that at low idle, this is considered the idle metering jet. It's going to be very, very small. And then as I add throttle, it is going to slide this back more and more and more until it has no effect. And then the next thing you see is the main metering jet. Follow? So that's how you adjust it at idle.
It's all the way like forward and creates that smaller space.
Say it again.
At idle,
At idle,
it's all the way forward.
it'd be all the, okay, at idle you want the smallest space, right?
Okay.
So all the way idle with a throttle plate over here is like almost all the way closed. Very little air is coming here. So we want very little fuel or a lot of fuel? Very little fuel. So this block is going to slide all the way over. So that little spot right there has got a teeny tiny little hole. Barely enough fuel to get through. Then as I open the throttle, push the throttle forward, and the throttle plate starts to open up more. I need more fuel, right? Well, good thing. That thing's going to start sliding back a little bit and allowing more fuel, more fuel, more fuel, until we get enough air metering force that the air metering force takes over, starts to move the poppet. Then it starts regulating. Just.
So the idle mixture valve, would that be, does it vary based off of each carburetor, or would it be linked from like throttle valve to idle mixture instead of directly to throttle to, like, I guess I'm asking a linkage.
Ask me if I know the nuances of all the different carburetors. I do
know,
not.
The one that we're working on, 'cause we're gonna look at one, aren't we? I'll get it myself.
This is it. This is what we're doing.
Okay.
This is kind of
I don't
it
get
in
to
its
take-
entirety.
I get to take a pressure carb home with me?
Yes, everybody gets a pressure carb. You get to take it home, bring it back, it better run. No, the entire oral will consist of just this sheet and you going over it and explaining it, the test, everything. Got it? Okay. So now we know how it works in idle, right? Not much more to it than that. All right, so let's talk about this whole mess right here. We got all these little jets right here. Okay, so under normal circumstances, we can see that, if I do this right, let me see, highlighter, this one, that we have this fuel comes up through here to that aux metering jet, and it comes around in here to this chamber right here. And oh, by the way, this one over here has got this pressure over here like that. All right. Is it too hard with all the coloring on there?
No, the colors are hella nice.
Okay.
That's impossible without it, I think.
Okay. So we have this unmetered fuel is going to come to three places on here. One, the main metering jet. One, the main metering jet. One, the main metering jet. Two, the aux metering jet. Three, the economizer. The economizer should be called a power enrichment because the economizer is normally closed. Spring pressure plus C, which is unmetered fuel pressure, keep this closed. And it will be closed in idle, low idle, transition, 65% power. But at some point, this poppet right here is going to open up enough that the pressure in D is going to go up quite a bit. And when the pressure in D goes up quite a bit, what does it try to do to C? Tries to increase it, but it can't because discharge nozzle opens up and regulates it at 5. But D is allowed to go up. And when it does, it overcomes the spring plus unmetered fuel pressure right here and opens it. So it's got a little diaphragm right there. So when the pressure in here, D, exceeds C plus spring pressure, it opens it up. And then what happens? More fuel is going through. I'm not sure what color I should make that, if I should do it like that to represent the more fuel.
Kind of like an orange maybe because it's
Yeah, kind of a, yeah, I would say there's a metering right there going on. All right, so that's our, what? Power enrichment, called an economizer. Well, why is it called an economizer? Because at 65% power, it'll shut down. How's that sound? So it adds more fuel at high RPM. No, I keep saying it. I want to say horsepower. High horsepower. Why does it add all that extra fuel at high horsepower? Anti-knock. Cooling, all that good stuff. Meanwhile,
Delaying the PPP.
all of the time, we have a main metering jet. We have fuel coming this way. So sometimes the economizer might be closed, like at cruise power settings, the economizer is closed, right? Okay, so okay, that was dangerous. So say the economizer is closed, but we're getting fuel out of one or two places now. Two. So we always have this going on right there, these two places. All right. So that is the normal out of these two places. And then we go into high power setting. Whoosh. Then what happens? Economizer opens up. We got it coming out of three places. All right. Well, there's this thing called an ADI system, anti-detonation injection, which, according to my reading, is a little different than what yours reading. His is probably right. But according to our textbooks, because I've never worked on an ADI system, it is a combination of water for anti-detonation, alcohol to keep the water from freezing, and a little bit of oil to lubricate the parts in the system to keep them from corroding in that system. You say they added methanol to it.
NACA reports that methanol, alcohol,
Yeah.
the water is meant to cool down the charge. The methanol is meant to burn, increasing octane rating, and then with low lubricating oil too.
That makes sense because we have the same three things, but they're a little bit more. NACA would be a little bit more, I think, accurate than our textbooks. But anyway,
Also back in the 30s.
okay.
What Q&A was
So
that?
we,
Water injection?
so we've water injection is what it's called, right? So
Oh, sorry. The alcohol was for what again?
drinking.
You must
According to your
know
textbooks, it is to prevent freezing of the water.
To prevent.
According to the NACA report that you sent me, that I've yet to read because I've been busy, it helped with what? Octane rating. All right, regardless of how you want to look at it, this mixture, what it does is water is injected not here in this drawing. They don't inject it here. It's injected later. I'm not even sure where, to be honest with you. So the water is injected into the cylinders. And what happens when you inject this water, the water is going to turn to steam. So you kind of have a little bit of a steam engine going on. So that steam is going to expand and give more power to the engine, along with the alcohol, which our textbook says is just for anti-icing, but it makes sense that the alcohol would help boost the octane rating and give some more power to the engine. So follow? So by injecting water, I'm going to get more power out of the engine. Without the water, what did we do again at high power settings? More fuel. And why more fuel? Cooling, anti-detonation. Is that best power or is that beyond best power, rich of best power? Or lean of best power? Rich of best power. So we're no longer getting best power, right? We're sacrificing power for engine safety. But let's think about where we saw this carburetor. Fighters, right? Fighter jets. Fighter props?
Warbirds.
Warbirds. Okay. So if we saw this in warbirds, I would think there would be times when you would want max power and everything you could be damn the engine. Maybe, because Maybe that's not the right way to say it. But by using this ADI system, what we can do is when you turn on the ADI system, there's a pump that is going to pump this fluid into the engine. And at the same time, as you do that, we'll go purple. Oops. Highlighter. Purple. That system is just going to pump it right to here, to the back side of that diaphragm. What's it going to do to that needle now?
It's going to close in. It's going to close off that auxiliary metering jet.
So it closed off the aux jet. So now we're not getting any more fuel that route. We're still getting fuel because we're at high power settings and D went up. So we're still getting fuel to the economizer, right? So the economizer's open. We had the main metering jet open. We had the aux jet open. Click on the ADI system. Now instead of 3 routes, we have 2. So what did that do to my mixture? Leaned it out. Okay, so it went from overrich to best power. Right? Okay, so we went to best power, but we have a problem with detonation, right? Except now we're injecting water that is going to keep it from detonating and add more power. So superpower. Right? So the secret to that kind of thing is I'm asking, what's a de-richment valve for? You need to understand all of that. So it de-richens it. Why does it de-richen it? To get best power. Well, what are we doing about detonation? Water. All right. How big is the tank?
The ADI system is working. Is it kind of working like how much of the duration of this? I ask like when is it on? When is it off?
Yeah, it's gonna be on at high power settings like max takeoff, military power, stuff like that.
But not a cruise or something like that.
No, you would definitely not.
10 minutes out of it.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah. Okay, things I don't know. Where is it
It's not
actually
aerodynamic
injected?
system.
I think it goes
Right
through.
before the intake port.
Yeah, my mind, it goes just like a primer system. So it goes in and you just have little injectors. And so these are not fuel injected engines. It's carbureted. That's the pressure carb. So I pictured it with little injectors. So yeah. And so I do have,
That's the way the cartoon depicted it.
I have this. And this one has kicked my ass. Like one day I actually like, okay, I think I got it. And then like 2 seconds later, I'm like, I lost it. The directions the only directions I have for how this works are so complicated that it's just, and it doesn't even quite match up. And some's like, oh my goodness. But this is the basic system. Some of it is really easy to understand. Some of it's incredibly complicated to understand. Obviously, I have a WA tank. That's it. I was going to say water air. Water alcohols works better. And so the pilot, and I'll write some notes on this. It's pilot activated. They've got a switch. I believe there's also a pressure solenoid. So if you turned it on, it wouldn't come on unless you're at high manifold pressure settings. We'll kind of come back around to this. But this whole stuff in the middle, I'm not going to make you learn this, but it had to do with timing. You had to time it to get, because all of this backfills full of fuel. And so you had this timing issue where you had to get rid of this, you had to de-richen it, get rid of this fuel. Otherwise, we had over-rich, and it was kind of as a pressure pain. But that's why you had delay bleeds and all kinds of stuff in there. I don't need you to know that. At one point, I was trying to go explain it, but I'm like, wow, it's complicated. Okay, so that is the de-richment valve for the water injection or ADI system. Follow so far?
Yes.
I think I'm running out of things to talk about. Okay, we also have the mixture control. I love the way it's drawn right here. It's just, if you've got too much fuel coming in this area right here, too much fuel coming up right here, pull back the mixture control, and it will
Press it away.
it will put a restriction right here so less fuel gets through. That's going to drop the pressure right here. See,
Drop the flow.
drop the flow. Yeah, just drop the flow. As I say, drop the pressure. Drop the pressure. So this is going to drop down a little bit. Less fuel comes out. It is not that simple in these carburetors. something we don't have to get into, but a lot of these carburetors have a lot of settings to them. There's rich, auto, like auto lean. They have all kinds of different settings, which are kind of cool, but we don't have to get into it, so I'm not. So, yeah.
If you, when you lean out the mixture control, would you said it would drop the pressure, so then.
Sure, it's a restriction, right? So everything after it
Right.
is the pressure is going to drop,
Correct.
flow is going to drop.
So wouldn't that let in more fuel in E&D because the C is lower?
No. So, oh, wait a minute. I know what you're saying. Okay, so let's follow that through. So this drops down a little bit. So this pressure drops a little bit, right? So it's going to drop it here. But what's going to happen here to the discharge nozzle when the pressure drops below 5? It's going to close, right? So what happens to the pressure now? It goes right back to 5. But what did the discharge nozzle end up doing ultimately? Close a little bit so we got less fuel.
Adding to his question, with the accelerator pump, would that be affected by the drop in pressure as well to cause the poppet to move at all? Because you have the orifice there where the fuel comes up to the left side. It also goes down to the accelerator pump.
So figure an orifice is, it's anytime you have an orifice like that where it's blocked off on this side, it will take a moment for it to equalize and a moment for it to de-equalize and a moment. So it's just going to always find its own equilibrium right away. So you may have a slight moment where you have a little bit of pressure difference across the orifice, but it's just going to equalize in a second.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it would like let the poppet adjust until it went back up to 5 psi.
I don't think it does. And again, this is a little simplified. Maybe if we got into it, we'd find another orifice, something else.
More detail.
Yeah, more detail might prevent it from doing that. All right, so we got mixture control, ADI, mixture, metering. Yeah.
Would the mixture control on this do idle cut off as well? Like,
Yeah.
It'll completely close right there?
Yep. Pull that all the way back to lean. Shut this off right here. What's it going to happen?
Got more fuel.
Nothing. Nothing. All right.
I was just about to ask.
Primer.
Yep.
I never really cover the primer much. I can see one thing that, let's think about it. So it's electrically operated solenoid. When I press a button, and I'm thinking this through all on my own here because I don't know.
Pump in there?
It picks
There's,
it up.
We already have your boost pump on.
we have the
I know,
boost
I
pump
have the
on.
primer.
So the boost pump is going to come in this way.
Oh yeah.
This has
Opens-
pressure
opens
on
the
it.
valve. Yeah.
So if I hit the primer, then I believe this would open, allowing this to flow out to the priming nozzles.
You can get your most fuel pressure out of it too.
Is there a freaking tornado out here or something?
Yeah, right.
It's a little windy.
Damn. I almost flew in today, too.
You didn't even have to turn on your engine.
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, just go out to primer nozzles.
Just taxi the runway and let the wing take
Yeah.
care of it.
All right, we covered the accelerator pump the other day, but just since we're here, and now you can look at the whole thing in one video if you wanted to. Let's see, we're gonna highlighter. What kind of color should we use? Ooh. All right, so as this is just operating in normal, and let's see, we'd be in idle. There's a check ball right there. So we got a ball on a spring, which allows fuel to come up into here whenever this piston is pulled back, or I think just the natural pressure right here, and this, if this pressure is lower, it's going to fill this up. And so it fills that up with fuel. And when we accelerate, whoosh, this is mechanically linked to throttle, so this piston has to move forward. Fuel cannot come down because the ball is on its seat, but it can push it off this way. It's going to come up in here, pressurize this area, push the poppet to the right momentarily because this is going to come down here and bleed off back that way. And then all that green equalizes back to red. And we're back in equilibrium. So it just kind of momentarily shifts it over a little bit and pops back. And it back. Yeah.
So the idle mixture valve and the accelerator pump are both linked to the throttle to operate inversely?
The mixture?
No, or the idle, that one.
This one, the idle mixture valve and the accelerator pump. Yes. So they would be.
They operate inversely.
Let's see. So the idle metering jet is going to.
When you're in idle, and then this accelerator pump would be full throttle.
Yeah. So when I pull back to idle, the accelerator pump is going to come this way, and the idle needle jet's going to go that way.
Okay.
So what about inverted?
Oh, that's easy. So inverted.
Screen.
Let's see.
I think he is.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn it. No, don't even do it. I know.
Do I need to do it?
Do it.
So inverted.
Good laugh.
Yes. I don't know if I can do it. Maybe not. I don't know. No, I can. I don't see the flippy thing.
On the left-hand side of the top.
Go to a corner, hold shift.
Jeez, how do you know? Computer.
Nope.
Oh, man.
What?
Like,
Top,
hold shift?
top middle.
Oh, that's fine.
No.
There should have been a little circle arrow.
Try to.
Well, just
Just go like this.
Yeah.
All right. I was just going to turn it upside down for those of you who weren't aware of the joke. Okay.
Well, really, like,
That's
if you
fine.
say, so,
Don't worry about it.
so you got air in A, B, C, D, E, and E.
Yeah,
I have to count my A, B, C's.
that's fine.
Um,
I do too. But I can go to G before I have to do it.
If we're inverted,
Yeah.
air bubbles are going to go to the other side of that.
Yep.
Okay, and say whatever those fucking air bubbles are in there.
Yep.
And they just keep building.
Then they could build up and go this way and out that way and occasionally get a little maybe hesitation. I
So
don't
you
know.
start to get, yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is that, like, what if you're doing an air show and you're flying a wasp? And you just fly inverted
Well,
all
you're
fucking
not
day.
spending.
How long do you plan on being inverted?
I don't know, but they fly inverted for a long time, don't they?
yeah, at least
No more than a minute.
Now we're at a time.
How long does it take? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I have to imagine.
I mean, if you're upside down for 5 hours, there might be a problem.
I would imagine that they would probably want some type of system if you're flying inverted, especially in something like combat, that they would need to have something that the engine is.
Okay, but they don't do this and just fly along. So
I
that's
know
the
that.
thing.
I know that.
And you
Okay.
also have to think like, I might be wrong. It's like a
So
float,
there's
like a
nothing-
float type carburetor. If you like flip it like that,
Yeah,
you're having.
but that's not what inverted flight is. That's inverted flight is upside down, and now gravity is working. It's not like there's not like positive G on it.
Let's just agree that it's not a perfect system and that going inverted and flying for long periods of
No.
time upside down will probably result in some sort of issue. If nothing else, you still have wing venting problems.
Well,
I got your
it's
fix.
well, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
if
open
the
up the
pilot is going
go
to be
to a
upside down,
DC
so
six.
your
Yeah,
blood's
let's
going.
Why everybody's yelling at me? I'm trying to.
Damn it, Evan! Who's got pitchforks and clubs? Let's get them.
Well, you told me the carburetor doesn't give a damn what side, what position and attitude it's in.
Eventually, it does.
Okay, so eventually it does.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, don't tell me I don't plug you.
A little bit longer than the proper, yeah.
All right. I will give you a choice. We can write a bunch of notes about this, or we can talk about the
We can watch Wally.
PS5.
Let's talk about the strong word.
PS5 is a little complicated.
It is a little more complicated.
Cool with PS5. I don't know. It's,
I'll be honest, you kind of got me
Take a
almost
vote?
confused on a couple parts in the video.
Whoa.
Well, maybe I was confused.
Yeah. I'm confused all the time.
All right. So PS5.
Let's do it. Literally about to throw the book at.
I know. I was just going to see how much pressure carbs. Yeah, the problem is I'm doing it different than my notes. Well, we'll find out what happens. All right, we'll talk about that just because I feel like it. All right, so this is the PS5. So the first thing I want you to realize is that it does have chamber A, B, C, and D. But at the point where you talk about air metering, when you say fuel metering force is D minus C, you're done with the oral on this one. Got it? So we're all, as soon as you say fuel metering force is D minus C, you are done with the oral.
Oh, we did that good?
Yes. You are done, because generally speaking, I get half of the class doing that. And that just shows that you put no thought whatsoever into this, and that you're just sitting there as a parrot. You know those little parrots you can buy and you say something, it says something? Like your little toy thing? Yeah, you can just get one of those.
There's an app with it that is apps too.
D minus C. Okay. So let's, can you see this okay, or should I?
It looks pretty.
If you print it out in color for us and hand it out, it'd be better.
I did it in black and white. I can't do color printing for free.
I've got like $5
And that's some Crayola colors. You
Yeah.
can color them in.
Yeah.
I'll eat 'em.
What if we did that? We did a little coloring book.
It's a Marine. Gotta be careful.
I said crayons because I would sift the markers if we had them.
Colored pencil.
A little better.
That's the worst.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. All right, let's talk about our chambers here. So there is some similarity that makes it easy, but at the same time, you have to be careful not to. Why is that doing that? Confuse things. Okay. So, this is acting stupid. I don't know why, because I want this to. There we go. Okay. A looks like what?
Air inlet.
Air inlet. What kind? Pressure or suction? Pressure. B looks like? Suction. All right. So we have A plus B. So air metering force equals A plus B. Have we seen that already? Same. All right. So what happens is very much the same. We have an impact tube where air comes up in here, comes up through here, and enters this chamber right here. And it does, actually I like this laser better. And it does what to the diaphragm? Push it to the right, okay? Ignore this right here. That's about idle and stuff. We'll talk about that later. So it pushes it to the right. And we get venturi suction, and it's the weird drawing. You can't really tell, what it's doing. It goes all over the place. But somehow it gets over here magically, comes up in here, and we have venturi suction, which causes the poppet go to the
Right.
So we have air metering force moving the poppet to the right. All right. So far everything's same. All right. Then we have fuel inlet right here, comes up, strainer into this chamber right here. So now before we had a little float to send fuel with bubbles back to the tank. Okay, this time it's just a vapor vent. It's got a very tiny little orifice. So it's just or air bubbles will pile up into here, and that will just send them back off to the tank. O is open, O is venting back to the tank. No big deal, right? Okay, so fuel metering force. Fuel is going to come, now this is confusing right there because it looks like this little, whatever that is right there, is the needle, and it looks like that's the seat, right? It's not, it's this way. The needle is right there. That's like just some sort of stop.
To keep it from opening too much?
Apparently, yeah. Or the full, all the way open stop. I don't know. So it opens this way. This is a stop. This is not the seat. Right? It's just those two maybe can mate in there. I don't honestly know everything about this, but I can't. Once you figure that out, it's like, oh, this makes a little more sense. So fuel then comes through this right here into D. So I would say the fuel metering force equals
E minus D.
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 Oh, D alone is just.
That's all I got is D.
C, I meant C.
D. And it's going to go that way.
No, it's there must be a different pressure. So D is kind of like E. I keep saying it. D. A, B, C, D.
Letters. Well, like in the
Yeah,
video,
see, I really got to do
the
that.
inlet fuel pressure is an E. Would that not
The purple is
would that not also like
Purple has no
Okay.
bearing on the diaphragms.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah.
So as air metering force increases, the poppet will move to the right, allowing more fuel to come in through here, pressurizing this chamber, pushing it back the other way. So everything else is the same. We got to have equilibrium. This is how it does it. But also notice too that the diaphragms are different sizes. So this one is a different size, bigger than this one is right here. And so there is some function of they used a bigger diaphragm to get more air metering force versus a smaller diaphragm for the for D. Also, there's a certain amount of, you have to think about, B is a suction, so it's pulling this diaphragm to the right, but wouldn't it also pull this diaphragm a little bit to the left? It's going to pull them in together a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what the hell that does, but
So what does it do? So if the A and B are pushing to the right,
right.
it's opening the poppet, allowing fuel to flow into D, and then it goes up through that meter jet that's on the top right
Yes.
there?
Yep.
Okay, so then what's preventing it from just blowing back in the pump? Is there another valve
Going which way?
going back through where it came in?
Going back out this way?
Yeah. I'm just.
Well, because you have a fuel pump pushing fuel
Ah,
this
yeah.
way.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
Just sometimes it.
So if you're saying that B, since it's a suction in there, is kind of pulling both diaphragms together.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the first time I've ever actually said that. Normally, I don't say that. I just say A is going this way. I get it backwards. A is pushing this way. B is assisting it. D fights it, and I just kind of leave it at that.
Okay, I was just gonna say, could you say like
Kiss.
fuel metering force could also be D plus D or no?
I don't want to say that. I just want to keep it easy. Kiss.
Okay.
Keep it simple, stupid. Is that what they say?
Yep.
Keep it simple and succeed, I think. Stupid. All right, so you follow?
Yes.
So fuel metering force is not. So I don't know. You say that, I'm going to go, oh, really? Tell me about that. And then I just watch you kind of flounder out and tell me how. So,
Everything he's playing with in his hand.
yeah. So we'll sit down, whatever I'm playing with, and go, tell me about that. So don't say that.
Well, that's what I would say if I was an idiot.
That's when it gets fun.
Okay. Trying to figure out where I want to go next. So obviously D is what? What do we call that? Without having to look at unmetered, and then it goes past C, and it's going to be metered fuel. Okay, so now we have metered fuel here. This doesn't really get into the whole mixture thing here. It's got a different mixture. I was thinking of the discs and stuff that they show you. It doesn't have that. All right, so let's talk about this down here since we're over here on the right side anyway. Okay, same problem as the other one. Does not work in idle because don't have enough air metering force, so it will not work in idle. So what do they put in there to make it work in idle? A spring which holds the poppet open just enough to get idle fuel to come off and go through here. But what does that mean now? What problem are we going to face? The idle range. Remember that? So now it's a dummy, right? And so it doesn't adjust for anything. It's just going to dump some fuel out. You deal with it. So something else has to deal with it. They just made it somebody else's problem. We'll get to that in a little bit. All right. So to the mixture then is down here. So as I lean it out, what we have is a bleed right here. So as I lean it out, it is going to pull this needle backwards, opening up a vent between these two. So we have impact air is going to come up, go through here. It's going up into there, but it's also going to come and stop right here. But when the needle is open, it is going to bleed some of this out and around this way. So if I take a little bit of the A air pressure and I rob it and I stick it into the suction, what does that do to both A and B?
It's going to get them closer to equal.
It's going to get them closer to equal, a little tiny bit. So if they get closer to equal, that means that the air metering force dropped. If the air metering force dropped, then
Less fuel.
Poppet closes a little bit. If the poppet closes a little bit, we have less fuel into D, less fuel into there. So that is all that's doing. So you're just pulling this rod back, opening up a bleed. Push it all the way forward, full rich, then this is blocked off, and A is independent of B, and doesn't steal anything. Everybody follow that so far? Okay.
Wait, so the air is flowing, but then you have the plunger and the arm there and the cam?
Yeah, I don't know how that worked now. All right, so that's just the regular mixture. I want to lean it a little bit. Well, now I want to go to idle cutoff. Okay, I want to shut this engine down. So what I do is it goes all the way out. It opens this all the way up, killing off A and B, but what's still holding it open?
Spring.
We still have the spring. This is not a pivot point. It's literally just a piece of wire that is there with a little wrap around. It's that wide. It's just floating there. That was the hardest part for me to figure out. That just floats. The pivot is right there. So when you pull it all the way out, this cam pushes on that and it pushes this down. If it pushes that down, it pushes this up. When this comes up, it pushes this up and it pulls this in.
And then it, like,
And it closes that all the way.
No, it just forces the spring back.
Yeah,
yeah.
just
that
pushes
closes it.
pushes this way. Follow? So the cam pushes this down because it's on a fulcrum right there. It means it's going to push that up. See, teeter-totter.
So
This
that-
goes down, that goes up.
That spool, that round thing is to keep it from like slipping off, I guess, if you push it too far.
Round thing.
The
This?
round, that, yeah, is to keep it from
It gives us something to
slipping
push on,
off
I
the
guess.
plunger.
Yeah, pushes on that. So it comes up, pushes on this goes up. When that goes up, this comes in. That pulls this in, seats that. Fuel is
Cut off.
shut down. All right, sounds like a good place to take a break.